Thank you for joining us again for another episode of Resilience Behind the Walls. We will be speaking today again with other community members who have either been formerly incarcerated or their family members who've experienced the criminal unjust system. Today we have a special guest that we will speak to the impact that the criminal unjust system has had on her and her family. Hello, sister.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Can you tell the folks watching your name and your loved one you are advocating for today?
Yes, my name's Alexis Jordan, and I'm advocating for my uncle, Brian Jordan.
Yes, we know your Uncle Brian Love Jordan, who has been on a previous episode, and we know that you've done a lot of work to advocate for your uncle over the past years. Recently, your uncle was released on bond after his sentence was overturned, and he had served about 17 years of a 45-year sentence.
Yes.
Unfortunately, most recently, he has been reincarcerated due to a decision that was made by the court. Can you tell us how this has impacted you and your family?
Ever since his reincarceration, it's been hard on me and my family because it feels like we're constantly getting our hopes up just for it to be ripped from under our feet. Like, we constantly gotta build, and then here comes the justice system to take him right back. So the little chance of freedom that he got, he was battling between doing what's best for him, but still keeping that little devil on his conscience to say, like, okay, well, I can't get too comfortable, because then if I get too comfortable, then there's a possibility that I could go back to prison. So there's pros and the cons to it, because he wants to be happy, he wants to settle down, he wants to rebuild his life to be the man that he's supposed to be. But then he has the justice system and those who really don't know him that tries to treat him like the way they perceive anybody who went to prison, as the monster, as a person that's not supposed to be here, that's not supposed to be involved in society, as though the person who isn't able to be rehabilitated. So I feel like that part is hard, because not only do he have to fight for himself, the family do. So it takes a toll, mentally, emotionally, like the entire process is draining.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's been tough. It sounds like he is getting really into the community and starting his life over.
Yes.
And he still has this on his back of that he could have been reincarcerated, which is actually what happened.
Right.
Can you tell me what has been the hardest for you to all manage with him being sent back?
I believe the hardest thing is to know that he's back there. I feel like everyone was just starting to relearn him and getting to know him. He was only at home for 5 months, so there was a lot of things that we have to kind of cram in one, and at the same time give him enough freedom to still learn himself. So when you take someone who's been away from family, society for 17 years, not only do they have their own personal things going on with them themselves, where as though they may not want to be around people too much because they're not used to being around people. So now you kind of, as family, you want to be there. As friends, you want to be there, but it's like you still have to give this person their space. So I just feel like that was like a major deal breaker for me, and I think for him as well.
Yeah, so in that readjustment period and you getting settled down to welcoming him back home, can you talk about some of the things that he was doing that was allowing him to be a productive person in society?
I feel as though when Brian came home, he literally had his head on his shoulders from the very beginning. Within the first month that he was home, he found a job. He started working at FedEx, and he literally went to work, came home every day. There was no time for any free time. He literally went to work and was with his family back home. Like, there was no in between. So I feel like that was a major thing that I found very respectable for him, because he made something of himself. Many people who've been incarcerated or is now back home, they don't have the drive that Brian has. They're not working. They don't have anything to really show for it. And Brian has done a lot. He's had 2 jobs within the 5 months that he's been home. And both jobs are really good jobs. Like, most people, they'd come home and then they'd automatically like jump to fast food or something. Not saying that it's anything wrong with it, but Brian always has set higher standards for himself. And I feel like that'll make him go a long way. Brian has also got a car since he's been home. So he's been doing things to help better himself. He started taking steps forward to re-enroll himself into school. He was going to start taking classes at UNH in January, but unfortunately he was placed back into reincarceration at the end of December. So hopefully, if everything pans out right, we can get him back home and he still be able to take his college courses.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Higher education is so important for people to move forward. And I just think about at the time of him being reincarcerated during the holidays, that had to be hard as well.
It was terribly hard because, for one, it was our first real holiday with him home in a very long time. We have new additions to our family, so it was his first time meeting people. And it was our last holiday that we got to spend before we knew that it was, as of now, it was our last time seeing him. I have faith that he's going to be back home, but I feel like if I'd have known this during Christmas, I probably would have spent an extra few more minutes with him just to embrace that moment of him being there. He was excited. He was able to go Christmas shopping. He was able to buy people gifts. He was able to decorate his first tree. He was able to wrap presents. And I feel like giving someone who hasn't had that opportunity an opportunity to be that person again is very special, and especially to do it with people that they love.
Yeah. And to just see that the criminal and justice system doesn't take that into account, and they're separating their loved ones from family members. And so as I think about that, what are the next steps that you and your family are going to take to advocate to bring Brian home?
Talk about it as much as we can. Bring awareness any way we can, whether it's talking to people, whether it's posting it on social media, whether it's handing out flyers, whether it's doing fundraisers again, just any means to get exposure to his story. I feel like even if you aren't able to pitch in, whether it's money-wise, tell a friend to tell a friend. You can't go wrong by telling someone it's free. It don't cost anything. Just word of mouth will get you a long way.
Well, you know that we're here for you and your family.
Yes.
And I know that you've been one of his biggest supporters, and I know through your organizing with fundraising and sharing his story, that was one of the biggest things to bring him home. Do you have any websites or places that people, if they want to donate or anything like that, that you would like to share with people who are watching?
We actually have a GoFundMe set up for him. It's actually called Help Keep Brian Jordan Home. You could reach out and you can donate through our GoFundMe. You can also look up his Facebook page, which is Brian Love Jordan. We also have a website for him, which is Brian Love Jordan BrianLoveJordan.com. There's a ton of information on there, or if you go to his Facebook, all of the information will be on there as well. So you could kind of look through and see what you can find, or you can also get in contact with me, which is Alexis Jordan, or contact another family or friend, and we can get whatever missing information that you need.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing those. If you had an opportunity to talk to those in the court about your uncle, what would you like to say?
That he's done his time. I feel as though Brian, he served his time respectfully. Like, he served his time as far as the crime that he's been allegedly accused of, and he sat in prison for almost 2 years with a vacated sentence. And then you allowed him to post bond. When we got the money for the bond the first time, we went back to the court and tried to get him released. There was an issue, and they raised the bond. So we got the money up again. We went back to the court, we gave them the money, then they finally released him the second time. And during that 2 years that he was sitting there, he had the same bond. It wasn't like as if they changed it while he was in there. They changed it once they knew that we had the money. So that gave me the perception that it wasn't about him posting the bond, it was about the funds. Because why didn't you change it when he was already in there? And then not only that, I feel as though once he got released, you brought him back in there, you revoked the bonds, and then you reinstated his sentence. So that leaves us, those who co-signed or those who raised money, in a position where what's going to happen next? Because we put all of our funds together to help this man, and then you took it all away. And now nothing's accounted for. The time that he served isn't accounted for. The time that he sat there under a vacated sentence, that's not accounted for. I feel like that's just not fair all across the board. So I feel like something has to give.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's like you did all the things that they set up for you to do to free him. And then once you've done that, they've kind of backtracked and taken that away.
Literally, everything.
And so, given that, and the disappointment of how we know that we are trained or thought to believe that the criminal justice system works, and we are finding out that it doesn't, and it doesn't in many ways. And so, given your experience with the court system, and having had that happen to you and your family, what advice would you give through your experience to anybody else who may be experiencing this?
Continue your fight. I feel as though anyone in this position should never give up. I feel as though those who are part of the court system, I feel as though you should take into consideration the efforts that these inmates are putting into themselves to rehabilitate themselves, because they're clearly not putting them in a position to do that, because even when they do that, they still find faults in everything that they do. And I feel like that's not fair to allow someone to put themselves in a position to make themselves better just for you to constantly remind them of what they are not or what happened the first time to put them there. I feel like that it kind of contradicts their process. It puts them in a position where they constantly feel like, well, I'm not doing enough, or what am I doing wrong? Because I take 10 steps forward trying to show you that I'm the better person, and you keep putting me in a position to remind me that I'm not nothing, or I constantly gotta do better, or I'm not doing enough.
Yeah, and that's a lot of pressure on a person, especially when you are doing the things to better yourself, to better for a betterment of your family, and also to be able to be a better person in the community.
Right.
And as I think about that, as we're talking, what are some things that the community can do to support your family?
I'd say the best support that you need right now is for everyone to write a letter and say why do they feel Brian should be home. whether it's based off your own personal experiences or what you know as far as if you dealt with a family member or friend in the same position, or whether you knew Brian personally. Just tell your thoughts and feelings about why as though you feel like he should be home. And you could either send it to me, or you can send it to the state's
The state attorney's office?
yeah, the state's attorney's office. Or either Brian's lawyer, Koch. So either way, still get back to the state's attorney's office. And that'll just help put him in a better position to fight for himself. I mean, the more the state's attorney's office knows what they kind of are faulting in, maybe they have like a clear view of what they can do better, or things like that. I just feel like the more the merrier.
Yeah, so the more people that we have supporting Brian Jordan and showing how he deserves to be out and freed and in the community with the power of the people, you believe that we'll be able to advocate and support for his release?
Yes, I do.
So with all that we've been talking about this afternoon, I know I've asked you a lot of different questions. I'm just wondering if there's anything that you feel that is on your heart that you haven't said thus far that you would like to say in reference to your uncle or in general.
I just feel as though my uncle deserves a second chance. And I don't mean just for 5 months. I feel as though he deserves to be home with his family. I feel like he's done his time. I feel like everyone has given so much because we believe in him. And I feel as though the states believe in him as well, because if they didn't, they wouldn't allow him to come home to begin with. You're not just going to let a prisoner come home and live amongst the community if you feel as though they're a threat. And I feel as though he's proven to himself and to everyone else that he's capable of living amongst himself. He's capable of living a healthy life amongst the community, and I just feel as though it's only right to let him go.
And we agree. Free Brian Jordan. We're going to bring him home through the advocacy work. And so I appreciate your time today. And thank you for joining us for this episode of Resilience Behind the Walls. And again, did you want to put out there some of the avenues that people can contact you before we end?
The GoFundMe is Help Keep Brian Home, or you can contact him through his Facebook. Well, it'd be me running his Facebook now, but it's Brian Love Jordan on Facebook.
Thank you so much, Alexis.
Thank you.